What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have the PCE data report coming out, not to mention some new developments on NIO's chart. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with the markets. Looking at NIO, we're attempting to rebound right now, approaching the $4 resistance. Nvidia saw a big dump yesterday, only to get bought back up today before we saw another end of the day sell off. And that had a big effect on the whole markets. As the market got bought back up today, NIO started to recover. And instead of selling off at the end like the way the market did, NIO held up. That's especially because of some good headlines that came out. Now, whether or not we continue to push on NIO depends on some factors. Right now, we're very much just range bound between the 3.6 area and about 4.15. And whether or not we break out depends on lots of different factors, not to mention some big headlines. So, what's happening with the news? Let's talk about this first before I break down the charts. Please note that tomorrow is going to be Friday, August 30th, 2024. 1 hour before the market opens, we have the PCE data report. And then 30 minutes after open, we also have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment data. But the PC data report is going to be very important. This is like another version of CPI. This is dictated by CPI, and what we see is going to be very important. As of right now, we're expecting the numbers to be very similar to what we got before. So we'll see if that ends up being the case, and we're going to be very patient nonetheless. On top of this, I just want to mention that CPI has been on a big downtrend, at least according to the data. But once again, I know that the data is not always going to be super comprehensive, super accurate. I just have to go based off of this. So I'm just saying that CPI is once again going down. It's approaching the targets, and everything was aligned with expectations. So there's a very, very good chance we get a decent PCE. The market's back to greed as we're seeing buyers defending. Even though we did dip at the end of the day, once again, the market's still holding in our range, and we're seeing buyers continue to defend. Now, other things worth mentioning is that there's about a 67% chance we get a 25 basis point cut. There's about a 33% chance we get a 50 basis point cut, excuse me. So right now the market's favoring a 25 basis point cut. This could be affected by PCE. As far as NIO goes, we're seeing some advertisements coming out for the ET5, getting a lot of attention right now. Very cool stuff, in my opinion. And then we also happen to have a lot of talk about their 100 Onvo stores opening next week to sell their $30,000 Tesla Model Y Challenger. That's going to be very useful for them as well, and I can't wait to see what this leads to. This is a good piece of news for them, the Onvo L60. So with this coming out, it's going to be very, very important for at least competition in China, and eventually Onvo is going to be expanding to Europe to give them a bigger edge. So that's some big news for them. On top of this, Bank of America Securities maintains a neutral rating, and the price price ratio is still kind of flat right here. NIO is not really outperforming the market by much. Fridays tend to be green 53% of the time, and we tend to see more volatility at 1 p.m. and also during the final hour of the day. So let's hope for the best. Volume is starting to come back. We have about 45 million in volume, especially as we're getting closer to earnings for next week. So we'll see how things go. What is my prediction for NIO? In my personal opinion, I think that we're just pretty much just range bound, going back and forth and back and forth. PC is most likely going to be decent. So if we break it before, we're going to be looking for a test of 4.14. Then we might dip back down and continue to trade in this range. Right now, NIO is range bound. So I think we're going to most likely remain range bound. I'm going to be looking for a little bit of a push tomorrow morning before we start to slow down as time goes on. That's kind of been like what the norm has been for the markets. And I think there's a very, very, very good chance of that potentially happening. Now, for SPY, I do want to mention that we have a head and shoulders like structure that's developing, but there's no guarantee it plays out yet until we see what the reaction is in the data. We do have PC data coming out tomorrow, so it might push things a little bit higher, but we'll see if we do the same thing as what we did today, where we kind of popped and dropped. Will we see another pop and drop like move and continue lower, or will the market hold up? We're completely range bound, and it depends on the data. Every time we hit 555, SPY gets bought back up. Every time we hit 563, get rejected. We're completely stuck within this range, so we'll see which way we go. But I do presume we may push a little bit tomorrow in the morning, thanks to PCE, retest the low 560s, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not, like how we did today. So be very patient, and we'll see how things go. Looking at Nvda, we formed kind of like a bearish structure. We're barely holding our 117 200 EMA. If we lose that, we're going to be looking for 115 then the 112s. If we break through this, we'll be looking for it with the 120s. We look a little bit more bearish, so I do see a risk of us dipping lower. And then we also have that gap to fill below, so we'll just have to give this some time. For other factors out there, Bitcoin's on a bit of a downtrend as well. We want to break past 61,000 and turn back up, and we have support at 58,000. We're completely stuck in the middle, so we'll see if we get a dip or not. So be very, very patient. There's a head and shoulders like structure, so give this the time it needs. For ES, ES is completely range bound as well. We have 5650's hour resistance, and we have support all the way down here around 5550. We're kind of stuck in the middle, in between. So I wouldn't be surprised if ES does a similar thing as SPY. We might rebound a little bit, but every time we hit 5650, we do reject, and we still have this range. So I think we might remain range bound for now. We may rebound in the morning and start dipping as time goes on, back down to support at the lower 5600s. For Tesla, Tesla's looking bearish. It's been continuing to reject. We popped, rejected, pop, reject again and again and again. And then we're going to be looking at resistance around this 207 area. If we break through this, we'll be looking for 210. If we reject, we're looking for 205 and 202. One thing that happens today is Tesla attempted to break out only to reject. So it's still doing the same thing. And it's been doing this for the last 4 or 5 days. So there's a good chance it may do that tomorrow. We might try to retest 210 and come back down. We may continue to decline because the share price is technically still bearish. So watch your levels just to be safe, but just know technically speaking, Tesla is more bearish. NQ, it's range bound between 19,700. The Nasdaq stuck between there, and then support at 19,400. If we lose that, we're going to be looking for 19,100. We're just range bound for now. But if we lose the lows from yesterday, then yes, we will continue to sink. We haven't done that yet to lose this imbalance. So we have to give this some time just to see if this ends up developing into that. For the QQQ, we are looking more bearish technically, as we're kind of like every single time we pop, we do get these rejections, but we haven't lost our critical support yet. We haven't closed below our 200 EMA at 468 2 times in a row, 2 days in a row. We haven't closed below that. If we do that, there's going to likely be more downside. Otherwise, we're still kind of range bound. Looking at 472 as resistance and 468 as support. We may rebound in the morning towards 472, if not 474, and then we might be looking for a dip afterwards. But so far, we're just range bound. Apple was attempting to break out, hitting at 233, only to reject. We're back around the 230 area. I think there's going to be some consolidation around here. We have this gap to fill down here around this 226 area, so we're technically above our range. Apple could rebound to the low 230s and maybe start dipping again to pop and drop. I find that's to be very, very probable. For the IWM Russell 2000, we are at support at this trend line. We're trying to ride this. As long as we hold above this, we're going to slowly creep our way up to about 221. If we lose this, we're going to be dipping back down to about 216. As of right now, because we're holding the trend line, we are favoring the upwards direction. So it's outperforming the market. Look for a push for 220 tomorrow. Coinbase has 188 as support. If we lose that, we're looking for 183, and then the gap fill all the way down to the 178 area. We have resistance around this 192 zone, not to mention 197. We could push a little bit, then reject, so just be careful. With coin, there's a little bit of weakness here as we had this high here, came down, made a lower high. So there's a risk of downside, but we haven't lost 188 yet to confirm it. For Amazon, we pushed our key 50 EMA at 174.5. We haven't broken that. And we have this dip that could be forming right here as we have this imbalance to fill. So whether we're about to get a bounce or not depends on the data tomorrow. We might rebound tomorrow morning to 174. But as long as we don't break that, if we don't break it, we could still reject. So I'll be watching to see another test of that. Meta's trying to rebound. We could be retesting the low 520s, and we'll see if we reject. We have this rejection here, another rejection here, and there is a structure that's forming like a bearish divergence. This does look like it might get a rejection unless we break past 530. So I think we might retest 524 and we'll see if we reject. And for Microsoft, it's the same thing. Every time we pop, reject, we pop, reject, pop, reject. We need to hold above 415. If we don't do so, there's going to be a dip. I think we will test 415 tomorrow. There's going to be a little push coming, and we'll see if it rejects or not. So that being said, the market's going to likely follow that trend, but once again, it also depends on the data. Most likely, PCE is going to be decent, so this might help the market push, especially NIO. I think NIO is going to push for $4 where this imbalances, maybe go a little bit higher, but then it might reject after that as we have this range as we go back and forth and back and forth. So that's what I see for NIO moving forward. That's my view of the markets, guys. I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow to break down the data. Don't forget, we have PCE tomorrow morning. Get ready for some high volatility, and we'll see how things end up looking. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and peace out.